about Abul Fadl al-Abbas protecting the women, but we're not protecting our women. How does that logic make sense? How can I cry that Hussein until his last moments is concerned about the women, and then I go home and beat my wife? It does not make any sense. So I leave you with this thought, and inshallah, we will find, if we really want to find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we will find that humility within us and that kindness within us, not to oppress others, not even an animal, not even a child, inshallah. If we can recite a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. صلى الله وسلم عليك يا أبا عبد الله روحي وأرواح العالمين لك الفداء يا ليتنا كنا معكم سيدي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. ليلة عاشوراء, ليلة مصيبة. From tonight there is Qayamat in the house of Zahra. Let us teach our children that from tonight until tomorrow night we have no other business except Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. Everything that we talked about from the 1st of Muharram is happening tonight and tomorrow. We are told that Ibn Ziyad, La'natullah alayhi, kept sending troops to Karbala. He sent Khuli with a contingent. He sent Hurmala with a contingent. He sent Hasin bin Namir. And Umar ibn Sa'ad was still trying to talk to Imam al-Hussein. But on the 9th of Muharram, he sent the most wretched man that walked the earth. He sent Shimr al-Jawshan with 4,000 men. And he gave him a letter for Umar ibn Sa'ad. The letter said, "Oh Umar, I did not send you to sit and talk and negotiate with Hussein. I sent you to extract allegiance from him. And if you cannot do it, then make Shimr al-Jawshan the commander of the army. He will take over from you. He is second in command now." Umar, of course, in his greed for the world, said, "I will kill Hussein, but I will not let you take command." And Shimr al-Jawshan wanted to start the battle as soon as he arrived in Karbala on the 9th of Muharram. And so a group of them came towards Hussein alayhi salam to say, "This is your final chance. Pledge allegiance or we start fighting you right now." Imam al-Hussein had this deep reverence for his brother Abul Fadl al-Abbas. He never called him just like that, my brother Abbas. He always started by saying, "Binafsi ya akhi, may I be ransomed for you, my brother Abbas. Go see what they want." Abbas comes to them and says, "What is it you want?" They said, "We demand allegiance from Hussein right now or we're going to fight." Abbas takes his sword out and draws a line in the sand. "I will go and ask my master Hussein, do not cross this line unless you want to see your head on the ground." And while he went back, the line of Abbas kept guarding. If only the wind had not blown that line of Abbas away. Hussein alayhi salam says to him, "My brother Abbas, tell them we want one more night to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We will not pledge allegiance, but let the battle be tomorrow." So they come back and ask. And Umar ibn Sa'ad said, "Even if the Romans had asked me for one more night, I would have given them. Let them worship God for one more night." So now the preparation has been made that tomorrow there is a battle. Imam al-Hussein asks his ashab to dig a trench behind the tents and light a fire so they cannot attack from behind. And now preparations begin for the battle. We're told at some point, after they had prayed their salat, Imam al-Hussein gathered all his ashab and ansar. He set them before him, and they sat before him with great reverence and love and respect. Then he addressed them. He gave a lengthy sermon in which he glorified Allah. And then he looked at them and said, Inni la a'lamu ashaban awfa wa khayram min ashabi. I do not know of anyone having companions as loyal and as good as my companions. My Jad Rasulullah, my father Amir al-Mu'mineen, my brother Hassan al-Mujtaba did not have ashab and ansar, helpers and companions like I have. Fajazakumullahu khayral jaza. Then he said to them, look, you all know tomorrow there is a battle. And these people are only after me. All they want is my blood. I urge you to leave tonight. There is no point in all of you being killed just to save me. But nobody moved. So then he began addressing them individually. He said, O Banu Aqil, you have given enough with Muslim ibn Aqil. You should leave. Nobody moved. He addressed the companions. Nobody moved. Then Hussein said, perhaps you feel ashamed and embarrassed that I will see you stand up and walk away. I will extinguish the light. So he turned off all the lanterns and all the torches and all the flames. What a moment it was that the Hujjah of God with 72 companions sat in absolute darkness and quiet. He waited for a while. Then he lit the lamp again. And what did Hussein see? On one corner, Habib's head was down, he was weeping. On the other side, Burair was crying. Here, Muslim was crying. Zuhair stood up and said, Yabna Rasulillah, if we are killed and brought back to life, and killed and brought back to life 1,000 times, we will not leave you, O Hussein. Another man stood up and said, Yabna Rasulillah, may the beasts in the jungle devour us if we leave you. Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas stood up. He wept and he said, Aba Abdullah, of what use is life after you? Why would anyone want to live if you are gone? Hussein blesses his companion. Shaykh al-Saduq in his Ilal al-Shara'i quotes from the 6th Imam. And in another hadith from Abu Hamza Thimali, he quotes from the 4th Imam, where the 4th Imam is the Rawi, that the Imam blessed his companions. Then he said to them, look up now to the heavens. And when they looked at the heavens, it opened up and they saw paradise. And he showed each one of them individually. Oh Habib, this is your maqam in Jannah. Oh Burair, this is where you will be in Jannah. Oh Muslim, this is for you in the Alamul Malakut. And the Imam says, Imam Sajjad and Imam As-Sadiq says, this encouraged them even greater. They began worshipping Allah with greater fervor, and they were now determined. Nothing will deter them from martyrdom. Al-Khawarizmi in his Maqtal, he says that there was this tahleel and taqdees and constant humming in the camp of Hussein. Wakana dawiyuhum kadawiyun nahl. When you listened to the camp of Hussein, it sounded as if there were bees humming because of that constant supplication of Allah, and they were raki'an and sajidan, bowing and prostrating. But this was one side of the camp. On the other side of the camp, there were mothers holding their babies in their arms, crying, Al-Atash, Al-Atash. Ah, thirst is killing us. Hussein began walking amongst the camp. He saw the mothers consoling their children, comforting their children. Some of them were explaining to their children, tomorrow there will be a jihad. You must not hold back. You must go forward and fight in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For 3 days the children of Zahra have been dying of thirst. Imam al-Hussein is preparing everyone for the battle. Imam al-Sajjad says at one point, John, the servant of Abu Dhar, was sharpening the sword of Hussein. And Imam al-Hussein began reciting poetry to tell his sister Zainab that tomorrow I will be killed, he began saying, Ya dahru uffin laka min khalilin, kam laka bil ashraqi wal asili. O time, how faithless you have been, and how many days and nights and sunrises and sunsets you have shown us. But tomorrow our bodies will be scattered in this very plains. And Imam as-Sajjad said, I began choking on my tears. My aunt Zainab began crying. She held on to her brother Hussein and said, they will tear you away tomorrow from me and kill you. I will not be able to live without you, O Hussein. Imam al-Hussein consoled his sister Zainab. He said to her, my sister Zainab, be patient. There is no one on this world who will not die. Everyone in the heavens must die. But sometimes he would tell his sister Zainab, my sister Zainab, last night I had a dream. Dogs were attacking me, and there was one particular dog that was attacking me viciously. I think that is the person who will kill me. Zainab is preparing herself as well for Hussein. But as Hussein walked further through the tents, there was one tent in which there was a lady rocking a cradle. That lady was Rabab. Rabab was thinking to herself, if only my child, you had been older, you could have gone to the Maidan tomorrow, you would have gone to the battlefield. If only you would have been older, you too would have shown your shuja'ah tomorrow. Who is Rabab? Rabab is that lady, a noble lady, who is recorded in history as being a poet, as being very intelligent, but above all, fiercely loyal to Hussein. We are told that after the battle of Karbala, when the women were taken and paraded through Karbala and shown the bodies of their loved ones thrown on the sands unburied, and Zainab saw her husband and Imam Hussein's body under the hot sands of Karbala, she took a vow that after this day I will never sit under a shade. If my Mawla has been under the sun, and that will be for me too. She lived for only 1 year after Karbala, but she never went into a shade or sat under this shade. This Rabab is rocking her child and thinking, if only my child was old enough. But the day rose the next day. Akbar gave the adhan. Imam Hussein had left Hajj. He began doing his sa'i in Karbala, running back and forth, bringing the bodies of the shuhada. He kept giving one qurbani after the other, one sacrifice after the other. When everyone was gone, even Abul Fadl al-Abbas was gone. When Hussein had removed the blade spear from the chest of Akbar, when Hussein had lifted the severed arms of Abbas, he went into the tents of his Ashab and Ansar. He looked around, there was just silence, their possessions lying everywhere. There was no one around. Finding no one, he thought, now I must go and fight. But before that, perhaps there might be another Hur in the army of Yazid who wants to come. So he went and stood in front of the tents of the women. And then he looked out to the enemy and said, Hal min nasirin yansurna? Is there anyone who can come to our help? There was no reply. There was no reply except the hot winds of Karbala blowing on his face. He called out again, Hal min mughithin yughithuna? Is there anyone who can come and rescue us? There was no reply to Hussein, but there was a reply from the tents. The women began to cry. Hussein came back to them and said, why are you weeping? I am still alive. They said, Mawla, when you called out for istighatha, Aliyun al-Asghar threw himself from the cradle in response. Hussein, Gharib Hussein, he said, this child is perishing with thirst. Give me my son. Let me take him to the enemies. Perhaps there is someone who will show mercy to this child. Rabab is fearful. Should I send my child in the midst of the battlefield? These men are ruthless and bloodthirsty. But then she thought, perhaps they will give a sip of water to my child. Perhaps his thirst will be quenched. She wrapped him in some new clothes. She swallowed her child. She kissed her child and said, go. Hussein is going to quench your thirst. Hussein. Hussein took his 6-month-old infant. He rode out before the enemies. The sun was blazing. Hussein covered the child with his abba. When he approached the enemies, they saw Hussein coming. They said, Hussein has brought the Quran. Perhaps he seeks peace peace and truce now. Indeed, what he brought was no less than the Quran. He came and stood before them. He said, Ya qawm, قَدْ قَتَلْتُمْ أَخِي وَأَصْحَابِي وَأَوْلَادِي. O people, you have killed my Abbas now. You have killed all my children and all my companions. فَمَا, he said, فَمَا بَقِيَ غَيْرَ هَذَا الطِّفْلِ. There is no one left now except this infant. Can you give him a few sips of water? If I have committed a sin in your eyes, فَمَا ذَنْبُ هَذَا الطِّفْلِ. What sin has this child committed that you will not give him water? There was no reply. There was no reply to Hussein. Hussein looked at them for a while. Then he said, perhaps you think that if you bring water, I will drink the water. I place this child on the hot sands of Karbala. You come yourselves and give him some water. But nobody stepped forward to feed the child. Nobody came to quench the child's thirst. Then he lifted the child again. He said, is there no Sahib Awlad amongst you? If you cannot be Muslims, does no one amongst you have a child? Is there no mercy amongst you? There was still no reply. Then Hussein said, my son Ali al-Asghar, you do itmamul hujjah. Why do you not show them how thirsty you are? He lifted the child towards the enemies. He said to his child, show them how thirsty you are. The child took its dry lip out. He took his dry tongue out. He began rubbing it on his dry lips. His jihad was no less than the jihad of Akbar. It moved and cut the enemy's heart like Dhul-Fiqar. They began turning their faces to the side and weeping. An unrest arose in the army of Umar ibn Saad. They began quarreling and saying, give the child some water. The Arbab of Azah say, Ali al-Asghar was like a fish out of water. Sometimes it opened its little mouth. Sometimes it closed its little mouth. It kept gasping for air as if saying, I am dying of thirst. Give me some water. When Umar ibn Saad saw there was chaos in his camps, he called Hurmala. He said, oh Hurmala, iqta kalam al-Hussein. This is enough. Stop the speech of Hussein. Hurmala came forward. He pulled out a three-pronged arrow. He looked towards the baby. He took aim at the baby. His hands began to quiver. Umar ibn Saad say, what is wrong with you, O Hurmala? You never miss your mark. Hurmala said, come stand where I am. There is a mother standing outside the tent. There is a lady. I can tell this is the mother of the baby. But Hurmala turned his focus entirely on the baby's throat. He aimed the arrow towards the throat of Asghar. Some of the Arbab of Azah say he aimed towards Hussein, but the baby lifted his head to save his father as the arrow flew through the air and came towards Ali al-Asghar. But now the words of Maqtal, it says, when the arrow came through to the baby, it cut him from one ear to the other. فَذُبِحَ الطِّفْلُ مِنَ الْأُذْنِ إلى الأذن ومن الوريد إلى الوريد فلما أحس الطفل بحرارة السهم. But when the baby felt the arrow's heat enter its body, أخرج يديه من القمات. It took his little arms from the swaddle cloth. وأتنك أباه الحسين. It hugged its father's neck. ورفرف يديه كالطير المذبوح. It began flapping its arms like a little bird that had been slaughtered. أيوة غريبة. أيوة مظلومة. Hussein began to weep. I do not know how Hussein removed the arrow from the baby's throat, but Imam al-Mahdi says, لَقَدْ عَجِبَتْ مِنْ صَبْرِكَ مَلَائِكَةِ السَّمَاءِ. Oh Hussein, the angels were astonished at your sabr. And this is why the Arbab of Azah say, Hussein wo gharib hai jise rula rula ke mara gaya. Hussein was killed bit by bit. He took the blood of Asghar. Some say he threw it to the heavens and not a drop came back. Others say Hussein wiped the blood of his child on his face. He cried out, Hakada Alqi Jaddi Rasulullah. This is how I will come before my grandfather Rasulullah on the day of judgment. Hussein was heartbroken. He covered the child with his abha. He began walking back towards the Khayyam. Perhaps he was thinking, how will I explain this to Rabab? But as he was walking back, suddenly Hussein froze. His feet would not take him forward. Why, oh Aba Abdullah? He saw Rabab is waiting. Hussein could not move. He began walking backwards. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Ridham bi qada'ihi wa tasliman li amri. Again Hussein tried going forward. Again he walked backwards 7 times. Gharib Hussein is finding a way to get back. He went around from behind the tents. He called his sister Zainab. Zainab, hold Rabab. Sakina came running out. Baba, have you quenched the thirst of my brother Asghar? Zainab took hold of Rabab. Hussein did not say anything to Rabab. He just simply uncovered his abba. Rabab said only one thing, and then she collapsed. She looked at the baby's throat. Then she said, Bunayya, amithluka yunhar. My child, are little ones like you slaughtered like camels? Ajrukum Allah. When Rabab recovered, Hussein took Rabab and the baby behind the tents. He thought, perhaps if I bury this child, it will comfort the mother. Gharib Hussein began digging a small grave with Zulfiqar. He had no water for the grave. He buried his child with the tears of Rabab. Yes, Asra Ashur came. Hussein never returned. The tents were set on fire. Umar ibn Saad said, we killed a 6-month-old infant. Where is his head? He sent a group of men with spears. Some of them said, we saw Hussein bearing a child behind. Go find the child. They began walking around with spears, digging into the ground. Rabab is watching. Her heart stopped when a man dug the spear, and when it came out, there was an infant on the spear. She cried out, my child, why are they slaughtering you again? Wa Aliyah, wa Husaina, wa Ghariba, wa Madluma. Matam Hussein.